Just to confirm, right now I am doing sentence structure number 1. The label is in the upper right corner of my handout. This means lesson 1 for sentence structure. I need to always start by writing my name and today's date. My name is Miss Antonson. Hi, Miss Donaldson's class. The next thing that I do is I write the date. We're all doing this lesson on the same day. Today is April 10th, 2013. This lesson is all about sentence structure, and since this is lesson 1, I'll be introduced to the different elements of the sentences. Here are some guided notes. Fill in the blanks as we read the notes. Here we go. Use a variety of different sentence structures to communicate your ideas. Different sentence forms also help make your writing interesting. I know these lines are small. It's okay. Use simple, compound, and compound complex sentences. Since these are in bold, I know they must be important, so I am going to put an asterisk next to these terms. Be sure all sentences contain a subject and a complete verb. I learned that in Read 180. Now we have these bold terms explained. Simple sentences have one independent clause and no subordinate or dependent clauses. I remember from Read 180, an independent clause is a subject and a verb. So that means it's just one subject and one verb and nothing else. Here's an example. Dragonflies lay their eggs in water. I see that my subject is the dragonflies and my verb is lay their eggs in water. There's only one subject and one verb that make up an independent clause, so this is a simple sentence. Let's look at the next type of sentence, a compound sentence. Compound sentences have two or more independent clauses, but no subordinate or dependent clauses. Here's our example. Dragonflies lay their eggs in water, and the eggs hatch there. I remember that this already is an independent clause. We talked about that before. We check this one. The eggs is a subject. Hatch there is the complete verb. So now I have two independent clauses joined by this word and. That makes this a compound sentence. The next type of sentence is a complex sentence. Complex sentences have one independent clause and one or more subordinate clauses. So here I see, after dragonflies lay their eggs in water, the eggs hatch there. Okay, I remember before, the eggs hatch there is an independent clause. That fits this requirement here. Let's look at this one. This is pretty similar to the last one, but it says after dragonflies lay their eggs in water. That part of the sentence can't stand by itself. If I just said after dragonflies lay their eggs in water, you would say, what? After what? That's why we need this independent clause to support the dependent clause. These two sentences, or these two parts of the sentences combined, the dependent and the independent clause, make up a complex sentence. Feel free at any time to rewind if you need to hear this again. I know it sounds like a foreign language. The next type of sentence is a compound, complex sentence. Already I'm thinking it probably combines this compound sentence and a compound sentence, so it's probably even bigger. Compound complex sentences have two or more independent clauses and one or more subordinate clauses. This is going to be a long sentence. Let's check it out. After dragonflies lay their eggs in water, the eggs hatch there, and the dragonflies go through a nymph stage. I see that I have a subordinate clause. We saw this one before. After dragonflies lay their eggs in water. We've got this independent clause that looks familiar. The eggs hatch there. And we have another independent clause, something that could stand by itself as a sentence. The dragonflies go through a nymph stage. These two independent clauses and one subordinate clause mean this is a compound complex sentence. Let's keep going with the notes. You can combine sentences to help you vary means change up, your sentence style. Two methods of combining sentences are coordination and subordination. We're going to find out what that means. We use coordination to link ideas of equal rank. Decide which ideas can and should be combined. There are 4 ways to coordinate independent clauses. So there are 4 different ways to join independent clauses. The first way is with a coordinating conjunction. These are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. I remember coordinating conjunctions with an acronym, fanboys. We see that fanboys stands for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Those are all my conjunctions. You know Schoolhouse Rock? Conjunction, junction, what's your function? These are those. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. That's how we combine independent clauses. The next way we combine independent clauses is with a correlative conjunction. These are always used in pairs. So we would say either blank or blank. Neither blank nor blank. Not only blank, but also blank. Both blank and blank. If we see these, we're probably looking at a compound sentence. Now, another way is with a semicolon. A semicolon looks like this. Make sure you're drawing it. With a semicolon before a conjunctive adverb, such as therefore, for, example, and however. That's another way that we can combine independent clauses. We'll see some examples of these in a moment. Let's look at an example of some not combined sentences. Here's a not combined set of independent clauses. Hannibal was a river port. Steamboats stopped there every day. That's 2 simple sentences. Let's see if we can combine them to make some more variety in our writing. Combined, Hannibal was a river port and steamboats stopped there every day. I recognize this and. It means that they're combining these independent clauses with a conjunction. Let's keep going. There's a little bit of notes on our next page. So flip over your lesson 1 and we learn about subordination. Use subordination by placing less important ideas in the subordinate clause. We use a subordinating conjunction before the subordinate clause. Since, when, after, because, etc. So let's look at how we combine these sentences. When steamboats traveled up the Mississippi, they often stopped at Hannibal. So we have a subordinate clause. When steamboats traveled up the Mississippi, right? That can't stand by itself. They often stopped at Hannibal, right? So the less important ideas go in the subordinate clause. It's less important that the steamboats traveled up Mississippi. It was more important that they stopped at Hannibal. Make sure that you've completed all of the guided notes, and we'll begin with the guided reading instruction for this lesson. Let's start by reading the directions. Read the student essay below. Use the questions in the margin to guide your reading. Then, answer the questions that follow. Number 1 says, an independent clause can stand by itself as a complete sentence. Why did the writer make this change? What change did they make? Humphrey Davy invented the first electric light in 1800. After he conducted many experiments with electricity, he invented an electric battery. So I see that this author made this change in this first sentence to make this an independent clause, right? Humphrey Davy, the first electric light in 1800, doesn't have a verb. I needed to add this to add a verb. So I could add as a note right here, needed a verb. For number 2, why did the writer combine these 2 sentences? Which idea did she make less important? The 2 sentences that were combined were, he conducted many experiments with electricity. He invented an electric battery. That's pretty repetitive. And those are both independent clauses. So by making this a complex sentence, we're able to combine these independent clauses. This is changed to, after he conducted many experiments with electricity, he invented an electric battery. If I remember correctly from the notes, the subordinate clause is the less important one. So this one, he conducted many experiments with electricity, is less important than the fact that he invented an electric battery. So I'll write up here, less important, and here I'll write more important. Okay, now I'm ready for question number 3. What type of sentence did the writer create by combining these 3 sentences? Let's look and see what 3 sentences they're talking about. Here it is at number 3. He connected wires to his battery and a piece of carbon. The carbon glowed. It produced light. Again, I see the same problem. These are all simple sentences. It's pretty boring to just have simple sentence after simple sentence after simple sentence. So instead, we see when he connected the wires to his battery and a piece of carbon, the carbon glowed and produced light. This makes it much more interesting. So here for number 3, where it says, what type of sentence did the writer create by combining these 3 sentences? I know that there's an independent clause here. This is called an the carbon glowed is an independent clause. It produced light is an independent clause. But when he connected wires to his battery and a piece of carbon is a dependent clause. I want to know what happened. This means with 2 independent clauses and a dependent clause, this is a compound complex sentence. So we're going to write this right down below, compound complex. Now we're ready for number 4. How did the writer correct this sentence? Here's number 4. This called an electric arc. And then it's changed to this is called an electric arc. Okay, they added something here. They added a verb in order to make this a complete sentence. So when they asked me how did the writer correct this sentence, they needed to make it complete by adding this verb. In order to get credit for this assignment, you need to be making all of these annotations, so make sure you're doing them. Number 5, why did the writer make this change? Let's look and see what change was made for number 5. In 1860, the English physicist Sir Joseph Wilson Swan wanted either to invent a long-lasting electric light or to improve on the work of others. What correction is made in this sentence? I don't see one here. I think maybe they're talking about the next sentence. Here it says, he found that the carbon paper filament worked well, but burned up quickly. I see here that they're combining this independent clause with this independent clause in order to make a compound sentence. Here I see this conjunction, but that's one of my fanboys. So here I see, how did the writer correct it? They made it a compound sentence. Okay? This makes it more interesting. And that's what I'm writing right here. Number 6. What did this change accomplish? So this is about that same sentence. This is the sentence after. Let's look at the number 6. In 1878, he demonstrated his new electric lamps in Newcastle, England. Many people came to see them. So this author has changed this sentence from 2 sentences to 1. And it's really small right here, but they've added a semicolon. You can combine 2 independent sentences by just putting a semicolon between the 2. That is what they've accomplished. Again, there is more variety in their sentence structures. So right here, my note will say, more variety. If you've gotten enough help on those, please do numbers 7, 8, and 9 on your own. When you're ready to resume, restart the video. Better. You've just finished lesson number 1. Now it is time for you to return to the website after you have looked back at the tracker and decided to check off that you have completed lesson 1. So I've finished all my notes. I'm ready to check lesson 1. Now I'm ready to look at lesson 2. If I go back to the main page of this website, you'll find that it's highlighted in orange, so it is accessible. And we're going to go to the second lesson in this row and click lesson 2.